clear, I was bloody petrified. This 6'6" giant of a man obviously saw someone very gullible in front of him. It really turned quite threatening.
Full Throttle Fables.
You have arrived at your final destination.
Powered by Net Performance.
We know what last time, Full Throttle Fables, we talked about when you abandoned me at the gates of Croft, right? Which obviously had a bigger effect on me than it did for you. And I'll tell you what, I got to thinking about that afterwards. There's another fable where you wouldn't pick one of your good friends up, work colleague, to take him to a local airfield. However, you did somehow pick up a flipping lunatic at a service station somewhere who threatened to flipping garrote you or something. I don't know what I can't remember. You told me a story about you were stopped at, what happened?
Leaving Snetterton. I was going down to cover a motocross Grand Prix the following day down at Eurosport Studio. So I was heading down into London.
A11 then.
Rather than back home. Down the A11, had to pull in at the first petrol station. And this 6'6" giant of a man obviously saw someone very gullible in front of him and kind of shambled across and I was going to say asked for a lift, but more demanded a lift, really. And then when I kind of said, are you going down towards London? Yes, I said uncertainly. And he went. So he then turned on his heels and went and picked up the biggest backpack I've ever seen. A humongous bloody unit. Heaved it over to it barely fitted in the back of my car. And then planted himself, like, had to reverse the front seats so to fit his legs in and got into the car. And off we went. And he seemed... I really wasn't very clear on what he'd been up to. He'd obviously been something to do with an American air base in Norfolk, and whether he'd absconded, I'm really not sure. The tale was a somewhat murky one, but it began to get quite threatening. So by the time we were on the M11, he was saying things to me like, are you sure you don't know me? Are you quite comfortable with this? You're not worried about what I might do?
Clearly you weren't.
Clearly I was bloody petrified. And he wanted me to pull off at the first service station on the M11 because the battery on his phone had gone flat. And he needed somewhere in there to charge it up. So we pulled off and we went into the service station. I went for a wee. As you know, that's always my first port of call. It's at all times.
Especially when nervous.
Yeah. And he went off to Costa Coffee to ask them to plug in his phone and charge it up for him. And when I came back, as I was coming back from the loo, our wonderful colleague James Haydon was there, had just arrived at the service station. And he saw me coming away from the loo and he said, are you all right, Jack? And I just looked at him. I don't think I spoke. And he looked at me. He said, you're not, are you? And I said, no. And I explained to him why. This big fella was over at the Costa Coffee thing. And he said, and all absolute credit to James, he said, leave it to me. He said, go outside, haul that bag out of the car and go. Leave it beside the empty space in the car park and bugger off. And I did that. I went outside, managed to manhandle this monstrous piece of kit out.
With the torso still inside the bag?
with the torso still inside the bag. Is that why it weighed so much? And then as I drove off, the guy had come out and James was confronting him, was explaining that I'd gone and he didn't have his lift. And our producer Tim and boss Laura they arrived. They were coming onto the service station as I was leaving. And they saw the kind of aftermath when a police helicopter hove into view and the guy was taken away. And So I've no idea what it was all about.
And yet, you'll leave a good colleague at the gates of a circuit when all he wanted was a lift 3 miles.
And my mum was expecting me home from tea for tea at Billingham on Tees.
Yeah. He's a brave lad, he's James, I've got to say.
And I knew I could never repay that debt from that moment onwards. That was very, very, very good of him. And I was a very relieved man, I remember, as I set off down the rest of the M11.
A harrowing tale.
A harrowing tale, yeah. A genuinely harrowing tale that got worse as it went on up until that point.
What did you think were going to happen? How could you see?
I had no idea. It really turned quite threatening, and I was alarmed at the prospect of where I might be required to go and what is actually where he actually intended to get to. I didn't know what was.
There can't have been a lot of room in the little Suzuki Swift there.
There wasn't. There really wasn't. There really wasn't. That bag full of torso was big and heavy. Not one of my most cheerful journeys.
No.
Not as much fun as our usual joshing.
The Outside Line Podcast, reuniting your hosts, the legendary commentary duo of Jack Bernicle and James Whittam.
But he's not on the right side of him unless he can do it. Oh, no!